and welcome to the June 2026 Council Agenda Briefing. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their elders past and present. I would like to advise everyone that the audio and video of this meeting is being live streamed to YouTube. I request everyone to please turn off your mobile phones. I remind you that audio recording of the meeting proceedings and photography within the chamber is prohibited unless prior approval has been granted, and councillors and city officers are reminded to disclose any declarations of financial interests and interests affecting impartiality, and are requested to activate their microphones when addressing the meeting. So, with that, we turn to item 1, which is the declaration of opening. Welcome everyone. I declare the meeting open at 6 p.m. Items for Council. Agenda items 2, 3, 6, 7, 8.1, 8.2, 9, 11, 13 and 14 will be dealt with at the ordinary council meeting to be held 30 June 2026. That brings us to item 4, which is attendance. Item 4.1 is apologies. We have received an apology from Councillor Blake D'Souza, and item 4.2 is approved leaves of absence, and Councillor Kathy Lees has an approved leave of absence for the period of 20 June 2026 to 28 June 2026 inclusive. Moving on to item 5, that's declarations of interest. Mayor Greg Milner, I've declared an impartiality interest in item 10.1.1 as over the years I've developed positive working relationships with the many local sporting organisations and community clubs that have or may potentially have an interest in this item. I've also declared a financial interest in item 10.5.3 because that item proposes revisions to policy P649, which is the mayoral vehicle. And I've also declared an impartiality interest in item 12.1 because I know a number of the members of the South Perth Senior Citizens Centre. Councillors, does anyone else have any declarations that they'd like to make this evening? And that's a no. Okay, moving on. Item 8 is presentations. Item 8.3 is deputations. And this evening we have 6 speakers who will each have up to 10 minutes to address council. And as per prior practice, I kindly ask that while everyone's insights and perspectives are valuable, please do keep the comments concise, to the point and respectful towards elected members and city officers. With that, I'd like to invite Mr Ross Dalton of Karrawara, who is speaking for the officer recommendation at item 10.1.1. Welcome to you, Mr Dalton. The microphone is yours. We look forward to your deputation.
Pardon me. That's on? Yes. Mayor, councillors and council staff, thank you for the opportunity to address council regarding the Challenger Reserve Master Plan. My name is Ross Dalton. I am the current president of Manning Memorial Bowling Club, having assumed the role just 2 weeks ago. My association with the club spans more than 20 years. During that time, I've held a variety of positions within the club and was part of the team responsible for developing the club's strategic plan 2018-2028. Beyond the club, I've also been actively involved in a number of sporting and community organisations. I've served on several Bowls WA committees, including a 2-year term as director. I'm also proud to remain a life member of the Manning Rippers Football Club. My family's association with South Perth and Manning communities extends back more than 80 years, well before I was born. At that time, the areas we're discussing tonight was largely undeveloped swamp and bushland, and Manning Road was little more than a bush track. Our club and its members were at the forefront of the community development that helped shape the vibrant sporting and recreational precinct that we see today. For generations, the club has played an important role in bringing people together, fostering community spirit and contributing to the social fabric of Manning and the City of South Perth. We acknowledge the City's officers' recommendation tonight to narrow the project scope to the demolition of and replacement of the Challenger Pavilion for South Perth United Soccer Club. We fully support our friends at the soccer club getting the modern facilities they need to accommodate their fantastic growth, particularly in female participation, and we wish them well. However, by deferring all actions on the Manning Memorial Bowling Club, the City's recommended pathway creates a critical missed opportunity. The briefing notes justify the deferral by claiming that there is an oversupply of bowling greens in the city. We must respectfully challenge this claim. The City has provided no empirical data, usage metrics or strategic proof to support the assertion that the oversupply exists. The suggestion that refurbishing a 60 or 70-year-old facility represents poor value overlooks the structural reality and social equality of the Manning Memorial Bowling Club. This building was built from the ground up by foundation members through personal fundraising and self-funded loans. For almost 7 decades, community-minded residents have maintained and expanded almost entirely at their own expense. Fundamentally, this asset remains highly fit for purpose, with an exceptionally low environmental and visual impact in the surrounding reserve. A refit, however, would reduce ongoing costs for maintenance. Our club now is a thriving and growing community hub. If the City is concerned about the cost of traditional high maintenance grass greens and building maintenance costs, then our proposal offers the exact solution Council should be looking for tonight. We present a pragmatic compromise that solves the City financial concerns without pulling focus or funding from the soccer club pavilion. We ask Council to amend the officer's recommendation to include a low-risk, self-sustaining staged refurbishment program for our facilities, building on the logic of options 2 and 3. Provide for new greenkeeper shed and demolish existing. The existing greenkeeper shed is aged, has health and safety issues, poses a physical risk to the upper level and stairs. Inefficient and no longer suitable for the maintenance required of modern sporting infrastructure. We seek Council support for constructions of a new greenkeeper shed, demolition of the existing shed and provisions for modern storage and maintenance facilities. This investment will improve operational efficiencies and support both existing and future synthetic green infrastructure and areas to be redeveloped as an outdoor marquee area. A project estimated cost of $90,000. Stage 2, a synthetic green conversion, an immediate financial win. Instead of relying on unsubstantiated assumptions about oversupply, the first stage, together with this, the highest priority stage, is conversion of one existing bowling green, realigning to an undercover synthetic green, in line with options 2 and 3. This proposal provides an opportunity for Council to deliver a significant community asset through a genuine partnership between state government, the City and our club. The project would deliver an all-weather playing surface, increase year-round participation, improve accessibility for older residents and people with mobility challenges, reduce water and fertiliser consumption, lower ongoing maintenance costs, increase utilisation of Challenger Reserve, support recruitment of new members and community participants, enable the hosting of regional and state events. Stage 3, preparation for a second undercover synthetic green. Recognising the Council's desire to stage expenditure over time, we propose that groundwork be undertaken in conjunction with Stage 2 to facilitate future expansion. This would include repatriation once the greenkeeper's shed is removed, site preparation, earthworks for a second green, footings, second undercover green and service and infrastructure required for future second undercover synthetic greens. Undertaking this work during early stages will significantly reduce future construction costs and minimise disruption to reserve users. Importantly, the stage does not commit council to immediate construction of a second undercover facility, but ensures the opportunity remains available when future funding becomes available to the club. A projected cost for these would be a greenkeeper shed at $90,000, base construction for a synthetic green $310,000, a weather canopy $980,000, preparation work and repatriation stage 3 $70,000, a contingency of 15% $220,000, a total cost of $1.67 million. Our proposed contribution source would be our state government funding from Jeff Baker, MLA. He's provided $90,000. Manning Memorial Bowling Club contribution $150,000. Required council contribution of $1.43 million. Importantly, this project leverages funding already secured from the state government and a significant financial commitment from the club itself. It would be difficult to find another community infrastructure project where council can unlock $1.6 billion worth of infrastructure while contributing only part of that cost. Failure to proceed risks the loss of $90,000 state government commitment and delays the delivery of a modern community asset that can immediately benefit residents. Rather than allowing this opportunity to pass, we ask council to support this practical and first step in the Challenger Reserve redevelopment process. Stage 4 and 5 become later, and there's no immediate financial consideration in these stages. The club's kitchen facilities are increasingly inadequate for current operations and future community expectations. Consistent with the refurbishment concept identified in option 2 and 3, we seek council support.
60 seconds.
Okay, I'll finish off. Request to council on behalf of Manning Memorial Bowling Club and its members, we respectfully request to council to support the staged redevelopment approach for council reserve. Allocate funding to enable the conversion of existing green to an undercover synthetic green. Support construction of greenkeeper shed and demolition of the existing facility. Support prep work and footings for a future second undercover. Support the construction of a new kitchen consistent with the refurbishment concepts. And continue working with the club to develop a long-term staged implementation plan that can be delivered as funding opportunities arise. This coming season, the club proudly celebrates its 70th anniversary. We're deeply rooted in this community and no intention of relocating. We'd be ecstatic to celebrate our...
Mr Dalton, that is time. I'm sorry, but I've got to be consistent and fair.
Yep.
But would you like to take questions from councillors on the deputation?
Yes.
Councillors, any questions for Mr Dalton this evening? Councillor Raison.
Thank you for your deputation, Mr Dalton. A couple of things. How have you taken this proposal for feedback with the club itself?
I've spoken with many of the senior, all of the committee of the club and the volunteer workers on a Monday that come down. I've exposed it to them as well. All these issues are largely known by the club members, and that support yesterday was overwhelming.
Thank you. And do you have an indicative time frame for stages 1 to 3?
1 to 3. Yes, that could almost immediately be done. We'd look to that to be within 6 months to 12 months. The whole stage, 2 years. stages 1, 2, 3.
Any further questions for Mr Dalton this evening, councillors? Councillor Brenda Brandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for your deputation, Mr Dalton.
Thank you.
With regard to the canopy cover for the greens, can you just advise how essential is that, or is that something that is probably required on some of the greens, or is it required on all of the greens?
No, it's not required on all greens. I've suggested one green at this stage. In our plans, we look to do 2 greens. The principal idea of that is weather conditions. Certainly for our older members, they find it hard to play out in the midday sun. This provides opportunity and facility to play at all times, day and early evening. And it's a growing trend within bowling clubs. There's several within WA at the moment. Pinjarra is the last one. We have Mandurah. We have offhand, I know them, but I just can't get them out. But there's probably 4 or 5 different types of product than we're envisioning. Thornley is another one that is going down that path. And in the eastern states, in Queensland particularly, yes, they also pretty heavily involved in that sort of production.
Mr Dalton.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr Dalton? Councillor Razon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think it's very appealing to have regional and state events coming into the district. As I understand it, one of the key priorities is upgrade to the kitchen. But at the moment, am I right in understanding that that upgrade would come in your later stages?
Yes. If the approval of the, I'm basing this on the basis that it wasn't recommended to go ahead with stages 2 and 3 that were on the master plan, and this is an alternate for that master plan. So if the master plan wasn't approved, this is a way to go through in a staged way that we can maintain our operations and eventually build to the club that we desire and the facilities that, you know, the community would require.
Councillor Razon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So if those 2 stages are done and there is one undercover green initially, is that sufficient to host a regional and state event, or do you need 2 covered greens for that?
No. If we've got greens, generally we'll get state events. We've missed out on Australia event this year. You may know it's been held up in the northern suburbs, Sorrento, Osborne Park, and that will be happening in October over 2 or 3 weeks. We held events like this 15 years ago. Last time was in WA. Unfortunately, it was heavy rain at the period of time, who would believe? And they got through with rain, but it certainly took the varnish off the event.
Thank you. I appreciate the spirit of compromise that you've brought to the table, and congratulations on the upcoming 70th anniversary.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr Dalton, councillors? No. Thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you very much.
I'd now like to invite Ms Joanne Ord of Como, who is speaking on items 10.1.1, 10.3.7 and 12.2. Welcome to you, Ms Ord. The microphone is yours and we look forward to your deputation.
Good evening. So my comments tonight, they centre mostly around just sort of budget capex and asset maintenance. Firstly, a bit about Challenger Reserve. So we had the rescoping workshop in May, at which only 6 of 9 councillors attended. But the report tonight is recommending proceeding with only part of option 3, meaning the demo of the existing pavilion and construction of a new one. And this does appear a practical way to proceed, given all we know about current economics and the user need profile at Challenger. The estimate for the entirety of option 3 is 15.9, but the estimate to complete only the recommended portion of option 3, being the demo and the rebuild, is approximately 4 mil. And of course, this is prelim pricing. But when we consider multidisciplinary builds, this is really a quite modest one in terms of complexity and cost. And so it was disappointing to see the recommendation to apply funds to proceed to detailed design for tender at the mid-year review, meaning February or March next year. And in practical terms, that does mean that another year is lost at Challenger. And on Thursday night at the budget meeting, I did hear the same type of comments on repeat from a few councillors. And the narrative of those opposing the budget on the basis of CPI, the reserves and Challenger Reserve seemed a little disingenuous to me. 2 of the councillors were lamenting Challenger Reserve, but did not attend the Challenger Reserve rescoping workshop, and one of them didn't attend a single budget workshop and did not raise the necessary detailed amendments to address the aspects of supposed concern that night. So repeatedly stating 10 million going into reserves, but failing to state that 7.6 mil of that is funds applied, is misleading for the community and the administration. The budget papers are quite clear on this, so maybe a 5th budget workshop was needed, but just to explain what funds applied actually means. In fact, one councillor gave only 2 reasons for not supporting the budget. Firstly, it wasn't at CPI.
Ms Order, I might jump in here
I'm
if we
getting
can refrain from comments directed at individual councillors
But
or
gave
former
no further
councillors.
specifics on cuts. And secondly, Challenger Reserve was not progressing. And as I've said, detail amendments for both could have been raised. We did, however, have support for a bridge amendment of $800,000 that had not been estimated with current pricing at Lake Douglas. And that was 4 councillors, which is more than is suggested for Challenger detailed design to tender at $700K. You can get externals to assist with this type of management, design liaison and tender prep. It's not a complicated project. This may not be the city's preferred option and it would involve some resourcing oversight, but it was entirely possible with some planning to keep some sort of momentum happening at Challenger. And is the city certain there is no internal capacity? It's a real missed opportunity, but I'll leave it there for Challenger. And just a few comments about Waterford entry statement. And for the record, I am not dismissing or downplaying the petition involved here. My comments are purely around inconsistent council decision-making and decision-making on the run. In my view, the entry statement expenditure should have been addressed at the mid-year review. A budget amendment that asserted non-existent savings should not have gazumped the officer report tonight. A concept that was touted at $10,000 to $15,000 initially has become more than a $60,000 exercise, plus ongoing costs in the order of $10,000 annually. And that will only increase over time. So this change in pricing was a surprise to councillors, by all accounts, on Thursday night. We heard councillor narratives about listening to the community and the existence of a 208 unverified signature petition. But you might also recall a petition in August last year that contained nearly 700 signatures from all across the city, over 3 times the signatures on this one. and a special electors meeting. But back then, council chose not to listen to the community. A little bit of selective hearing, perhaps. We also heard statements about funding the entry statement with savings, but those savings don't exist. Funds are actually to be taken from the slab replacement program, and apparently we're not going to complete it anyway. Now, if clients and principals took that fatalist approach with every program of works or project, contractors would sniff that out a mile away in terms of time and cost. And it was disappointing to hear that narrative provided on council and then also embraced by some on council. Any entry statement must minimise CapEx and asset maintenance obligations. The exclusions in the city's estimate are many and are reasonable. Don't provide any lighting or an electrical feed to the sign. Those are costly upfront and long term. Choose durable, cost-effective materials, simple design and construction, and this won't be popular. Don't get carried away with community consultation because you will never please everybody. Ensure a design and location that avoids requiring traffic management during any ongoing maintenance because it all adds up and TM is costly. So just to recap, a concept that was touted at 10 to 15K has become more than $60,000 CapEx exercise, plus ongoing costs that will only increase with time. And we've heard councillors speak of decision-making on the run previously without the full picture, and it's happened again. And my final comment about community consultation on the amalgamation remains to be seen if anyone moves it. I'd suggest consultation on this particular issue doesn't feature in the community's priority list. And in any event, the city suddenly has a by-election or two to fund instead of this survey. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation, Ms Ord. Would you like to take questions from councillors about your deputation?
Sure.
Councillors, any questions for Ms Ord about her deputation? No. Thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Ms Bronwyn David of South Perth, who is speaking against the officer recommendations at items 10.3.5, 10.4.3 and 10.5.2. Welcome to you, Ms David. The microphone is yours and we look forward to your deputation.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members, mayor, city staff, we happy few. Before I start, I'd just like to tell a little story that I heard today. A friend of mine accompanied her husband to the husband's boss's, it was a work Christmas party for a husband, and it was at the boss's house in Dalkeith, and they went there and it was a beautiful modern home. But she got talking to the wife, and the wife said that when they bought the block in Dalkeith, there was a lovely old home on it and two giant trees, and they knocked it all down and built this house. And 20 years later, she'd come to regret that. I just hope that it doesn't take 20 years and the destruction of trees for other people to realise what they lose when they lose a tree. Which brings me to item 10.3.5, the proposed tree damaging activity to a regulated tree at number 22 Pitt Street, Kensington. The officer recommendation is to allow this tree to be removed on the basis of allow this tree to be removed, but I'm objecting to that on the basis of the vitality, size and visibility of the tree within the community and the possibility of designing a home around the tree. You've probably heard the saying, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. In respect of this item, I'd say, in a world where you can design any house, why wouldn't you keep the tree? Why would you want to live in a home like everyone else when you could preserve this tree and build around it, incorporating it into your home? And I'm holding up now a photo of, or a picture of a concept of an internal courtyard featuring a tree within a home. Volume builders in Perth actually offer courtyard homes, but here the owners have chosen a house design that means the tree cannot be kept. And this is the nub of Local Planning Policy 3.2. the meaning of unfeasible. At 7.2, the policy states that tree damaging activity may be considered if the regulated tree is unhealthy, which doesn't apply in this case. The regulated tree causes safety risks to people, infrastructure or buildings, which is also not applicable in this case. But the final paragraph is if, in the opinion of the city, the redesign of the development to accommodate the regulated tree is unfeasible. Now, to me, redesigning a home around a tree is perfectly feasible. And in fact, I did something similar in my own home where we wanted to build around the existing heritage swimming pool from the 1970s. It simply meant that I couldn't have a rectangular home. I had to have a different shaped home. Perhaps one day we'll reach the level of maturity that I've personally observed in Sydney, where the original tree preservation orders have existed since the early 1970s, and where houses are simply designed around amazing existing trees. It's unfortunate in this situation that the city considers there is negligible impact on the community given the location of the tree within the middle of the site. The tree is very large and can be observed from the street and surrounding properties, and this is taken straight from Google View. The relevant tree is this one or that one. As you can see, it's amongst the biggest tree in the surrounding area. There's very few sparsely situated other trees. It contributes enormously to the canopy in that area. The very least the council could do in these circumstances is to insist that the tree that is proposed to be replanted to replace this is of a particular age when it goes in the ground, or will reach a particular height or width of canopy at maturity. As the policy stands, the owners could plant a 2-metre frangipani or hibiscus and meet the city's replacement tree requirements. So, moving on to 10.5.2, the annual review of council delegations. And again, I'm speaking against that. Amongst a very long list in the agenda is a delegation in respect of local planning policy 3.2 on tree retention. The effect of the proposed amendment regarding applications for a prescribed single house development that includes a regulated tree, the effect of this amendment would be to have those decisions determined by the CEO or administrative staff as one application, unlike 22 Pitt Street, where the city staff will in time consider the building and the council here is considering the tree. This council delegation amendment would mean that the city staff would consider the removal of the tree when they're considering the development application for the house. Given that local planning policy is so new, it would be preferable if decisions made in relation to it remain visible, that is, made at council meetings. The main concern is that allowing the CEO or staff to determine these applications as a single house matter may make the process less visible to the community. If the decision is made within the standard single house process, there may be fewer opportunities for neighbours or the wider community to understand the importance of retaining mature trees and the reasons behind removal decisions, because they wouldn't be aired in a forum such as this. A possible impact is that tree removal may become seen as a normal part of residential development, especially where applicants argue that retaining the tree makes building design difficult. In areas where residents, builders and homeowners are not familiar with the environmental value of mature trees, the change could unintentionally reinforce the idea that trees are obstacles to development rather than assets that provide shade, cooling, biodiversity, stormwater benefits and neighbourhood character. There is also a risk that the unfeasibility of redesign test in local planning policy 3.2 could become applied too broadly. Many developments can technically be designed around existing trees, but doing so may require different layouts, smaller building footprints or additional design effort. If decision makers prioritise ease of construction over retention, the cumulative effect could be a gradual loss of mature canopy across residential areas. So for that reason, it would be my preference that that council delegation not be allowed. I know it's only one in a very long list of matters at 10.5.2, but I hope that might be singled out and removed from that list. Now, finally, I'm also speaking about item 10.4.3. That's a report in response to a notice of motion regarding financial sustainability strategy, which was put forward by Councillor Raison. Under the heading Other Revenue, it notes that one example of other revenue given was successful prosecutions. The city receives revenue as a result of successful prosecutions. Encouraging the city to prosecute the owner for breach of the Local Planning Policy 3.2 and or the Planning and Development Act in respect of the tree damaging activities at 41 South Terrace, Como, would hopefully result in another windfall for the council, and I would hope that the council would consider going ahead with that prosecution. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation, Ms David. Would you like to take questions from councillors?
Very happy to, thank you.
All right. Councillors, any questions for Ms David? No, that was easy. Thank you for your deputation.
Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Mr Luciano Di Ambrogio, I hope I've pronounced the surname correctly there, of Waterford, who is speaking for the officer recommendation at item 10.3.7. Welcome to you, Mr Di Ambrogio, and the microphone is yours. We look forward to your deputation.
Thank you very much. Dear Mayor and Councillors, thank you for the opportunity to provide this deputation in support of the new entry statement for Waterford. As a Waterford resident and one of the many local residents who strongly support Council making a budget allocation for the design and installation of a new Waterford entry statement at or near the southern side of the intersection of Manning Road, Kent Street and Waterford Avenue. For many years, Waterford had a recognised and well-known entry statement at this location. It was simple but meaningful landmark, a low white wall with the word Waterford clearly displayed. It helped define the suburb, gave residents a sense of arrival and contributed positively to the local identity and presentation. As outlined in the city's report, the previous entry statement was located on private land and was subsequently removed from public view after the sale of the property and construction of the Collarbond fence. Since then, Waterford has effectively been left without a proper entry statement. This is not just about a sign. It is about suburb identity, community pride, amenity, and the presentation of one of the key gateways into Waterford. The petition presented to Council earlier this year, supported by over 200 plus residents, demonstrates that this matter is important to the local community. The request is modest, reasonable, and clearly supported by residents. Waterford residents are not asking for an extravagant structure or expensive landmark. We're asking for a carefully designed, attractive, durable, and low-maintenance entry statement that restores the sense of place that previously existed. The city's own report acknowledges that well-designed entry statements can support visual amenity, placemaking, and a sense of identity within a suburb. That's exactly what is being requested here. We acknowledge the city's concerns around safety, maintenance, ownership, design consistency and cost. These are valid considerations. However, they should not be reasons to indefinitely delay the project. Rather, they should guide the design brief. A new Waterford entry statement can be designed to meet those requirements by ensuring it is located on public land or otherwise secured so that the same issue does not occur again. professionally assessed for traffic safety, sightlines, underground services and maintenance access. Designed with simple, durable materials, landscape with water-wise and sustainable planting, free of unnecessary complexities such as water features or high-maintenance elements. Visually consistent with the character of Waterford and the broader city of South Perth, and delivered in consultation with the local residents. I support the city developing an entry statement policy to guide future proposals. However, I respectfully submit that the preparation of a policy should not prevent Council from also progressing the Waterford entry statement now. Excuse me. This request has arisen because Waterford has had an existing entry statement for many years, and that entry statement has now been lost through circumstances outside the community's control. This is not a speculative request for a new suburb feature where none existed before. It is a request to restore an important local landmark and improve the current presentation of a key entrance into the suburb. The intersection of Manning Road, Kent Street and Waterford Avenue is a prominent gateway. At present, the area does not reflect the quality, pride or character of Waterford. A well-designed entry statement supported by appropriate landscaping would improve the streetscape and provide a more welcoming presentation for residents, visitors and people travelling through the area. This project also aligns with the city's strategic community plan, particularly the aspirations for sustainable, livable, diverse and welcoming neighbourhoods, and the strategy to improve the amenity value of streetscapes, public open spaces and local environments. The city's report provides an indicative cost range for entry statements, while the final cost would depend on the design, location, materials and approvals. This is relatively modest community amenity project when compared with larger capital works. With a sensible design brief focused on simplicity, durable and low maintenance, the project can be delivered in a financially responsible way. I therefore respectfully ask Council to go further than the current officer recommendation. Rather than only requesting the preparation of an entry statement policy, I ask Council to also support a budget allocation for the Waterford entry statement in the 2026-27 budget and allow the city to progress concept design, community consultation, approvals and construction. A practical way forward would be for Council to resolve that the Chief Executive Officer prepare or present a Council policy on entry statements. The City concurrently progresses a concept design and cost estimate for Waterford entry statement at or near the southern side of the Manning Road, Kent Street and Waterford Avenue intersection. The design be developed with the input from Waterford residents and with regard to safety, sustainability, maintenance and streetscape integration. And Council confirmed the specific budget allocation for the Waterford entry statement as part of the 26-27 budget process. This approach would allow City to manage the project properly while also respecting the clear wishes of the Waterford community. Waterford has lost a long-standing entry statement that helped define the suburb. The community has shown strong support for replacing it. The project is achievable, modest in scale, capable of being designed in a way that addresses the city's concerns. I respectfully ask Mayor and Councillors to support the budget allocation for the new Waterford entry statement and to work with residents to provide an outcome that is attractive, safe, sustainable and reflective of the pride of residents have in our suburb. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr Ambrogio, for your deputation. Would you like to take questions from councillors about your deputation?
We would be very happy to.
Councillors, any questions for Mr yes, Councillor Raison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I may have a question, but if I could ask the administration a question first, please.
I'll allow it.
At our budget meeting, the most recent budget meeting, I understand that there was a notice of motion approved in relation to the Waterford entry statement. Is that my understanding? Is that the case?
Ms Anne Primer.
It wasn't a notice of motion, it was an amendment to the budget which approved the allocation of $60,000, yes.
Thank you. So that being the case that the budget was amended to allow for that, am I right in thinking that if this policy or this officer recommendation proceeded about the preparation of policy, those two things are mutually exclusive, so the budget amendment would continue?
Ms Anne Primer.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I guess I'll just ask a question to follow on from that, because I do sense there might be some concern in the gallery about this, which I think you might have picked up on as well. So if council were to pass the officer recommendation on item 10.3.7 at next week's ordinary council meeting, and thereby request the CEO to prepare a policy for consideration, would council passing the officer recommendation on item 10.3.7 in any way invalidate, undermine or affect the budget allocation for the Waterford entrance that was carried at last Thursday's budget meeting? And I guess that's to Ms Amprimo.
There's no reason why that should be the case. The policy could just set out how you go about considering entry statements.
Thank you. Any further questions, anyone? Councillor Raison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, one question. Thank you for your deputation. One of the things I'm very keen to work on is grassroots community cooperation. In my ward, Mill Point Ward, we have a number of small locations where there may be a seat or something that is very meaningful to that pocket of our community. And one of the things that I really like is the way that people who are living around that area actually have a way that they sort of coordinate some sort of not maintenance, but just caring for that particular area. Given that there has been a petition and there obviously has been some coalescing of minds here in your area, do you think this is an opportunity, or there would be an opportunity for us to actually go to the community or people about the petition to get something off the ground in relation to this particular area, which would also lower the ongoing maintenance costs for the rest of the community?
Could you elaborate what you mean by what the community would be required to do?
Yes, so in some areas where we have not necessarily an entrance statement, we have some groups that are going once a month or once a quarter to do some weeding or some sort of small kind of maintenance tasks to maintain that particular area, depending on the design. Do you think there would be any interest in the community itself taking that pride and participating in this, depending on the design?
I think people have pride in the area, but I think it would be a big ask to ask people to go and do weeding for an entry area to the suburb. That's what we pay our rates for. So at the end of the day, we had something there that was substantial. It was on the private land, as you are aware, that was owned by the Christian Brothers who developed Waterford initially. They've since closed off the area, and the sign's been removed from there as well. What we're trying to do, as you can see in front of your screens, is a concept, and it's a concept only, that I prepared for tonight, so it's by no means a locked-in design by any chance. But it gives the idea of what initially what was there was the Waterford word, but we've designed it as a logo, and the actual wall, and obviously there's a wall there and a wall in the middle currently at the moment. So what we're trying to do is to modernise, since the other one has been removed, to put a modern feature that is not a high cost. It's just a wall with the graphic logo on the design, so that people enter at that particular location. It's a fairly significant section there in traffic. So it's opposite Curtin University, opposite Village Green Shopping Centre, and quite a major traffic flow along Manning Road. And that is the main entry into Waterford. So, yeah, hopefully I've answered your question properly.
Any further questions, councillors? No. Thank you very much, Mr D'Ambrogio, for your deputation.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate that.
I'd now like to invite Mr Robert Mackay of Waterford, who is speaking against the officer recommendation at item 10.3.7. Welcome to you, Mr Mackay. The microphone is yours. We look forward to your deputation.
Thank
Thank you. I think there's a little bit of a confusion. I'm not speaking against, I'm speaking for.
Thank you for the clarification.
My colleague has... Oh, could we have that photograph back up? Is that possible?
Governance, can we put the visual that was back up back on the screen? There we go.
Waterford is named after the birthplace in Ireland of Edmund Rice, and he was the founder of the Christian Brothers. From 1981, portions of the land were sold off and Waterford was established. It is a beautiful, originally it was a beautiful entrance crafted in classic style. The image you see there is just beautiful. On the left-hand side, you enter the village, there's a rendered wall, a scripted sign supporting stone pillars. As you drive in, there's a curvaceous wall facing you supported by stone pillars, again with a scripted sign announcing your arrival. At the base of both of those walls, there are beautiful plantings. The council does a fantastic job on the entrance to Waterford, and also the parks are beautifully maintained. Today, the entrance is a sad reflection. In place of the wall on the left-hand side, you can see there's a colour-bond fence. Where it says Waterford in the middle there is a purple discoloured wall with a large 50k sign in front of it. Not very attractive. Lindley, who I believe is going to speak soon, she organised a petition to the council to consider the original entrance and return it as close as possible to its original setting. I gather that the motion passed 5-4 here in council, and there's an allocation of $60,000. I've read in the paper that 3 councillors have resigned. I don't know the reasons behind that. I'm not up to date with that. But apparently the upgrade is now under review. From the comments you've just made, that's not the case. So thank you for that. As the motion was passed 5-4, we just asked the council to honour its original commitment to upgrade the Waterford entrance in line with the design. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mackay. Would you like to take questions from the councillors on your deputation?
Yes, certainly.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Raison.
Thank you for your deputation. While we've got you, given that the item is relating to recommendation for us to have a general policy about entry statements, have you got any thoughts on precedents that said about the ongoing costs if every area within the city has a...
I'm not a
entry
councillor,
statement?
so I don't really understand why there's a reason to have a policy. We had an existing structure there before, and that's changed, and it's not changed for the better, it's changed for the worst. So I can't understand why we can't just go back to what was there before.
Any further questions, councillors? No. Thank you very much for your deputation, Mr Mackay.
Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Ms Lindley Miles of Waterford, who is speaking for the officer recommendation at item 10.3.7. Welcome to you, Ms Miles. The microphone is yours, and we look forward to your deputation.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, CEO and members of the public. My name is Lindley Miles and I've been a resident of Waterford for more than 34 years. In February, I lodged a petition containing approximately 200 signatures, and I might just say that was 200 doors that I knocked on. So requesting an upgrade to the Waterford entry statement, which has unfortunately deteriorated into an unattractive and neglected gateway to our suburb. This location is not only the entrance to Waterford, but also a major arterial route into the city of South Perth, situated at a prominent intersection that creates an important first impression for residents and visitors alike. I would just like to point out and make clear that the entrance has actually been there for approximately 40 years, and it has just deteriorated and to a point of neglect, and it needs to be upgraded. We're not asking for something that wasn't there before. We're just asking for what was there to be upgraded to an acceptable standard. As for the costs and maintenance of the entrance, there has been work carried out on all gardens, street landscaping and parks in the city of South Perth. Those costs will never go down. They will go up, not just for the entrance to Waterford, but for every garden that's within the city. And I would also like to say that my family are active members of the council. We actually have a park across the road that my children have written and had equipment put in. We have bucketed water over there when the reticulation has broken. And my non-verbal autistic grandson has a little trolley with tongs that he walks around the neighbourhood collecting the rubbish, which I have sent to Mayor Milner previously. So, going on, I firmly believe that pride in oneself, pride in one's home and pride in one's suburb contribute to pride in the wider community. When that sense of pride diminishes, communities become less attractive places in which to live, work and raise families. Unfortunately, the current Waterford entry statement no longer reflects the values that it once did. The character isn't there, there is no identity of our community, nor does it create a meaningful sense of place. While I acknowledge that the available space is now more limited than in the past, I believe that with imagination, creativity and a thoughtful design, Waterford can once again have an entrance that inspires pride and reflects the beauty and value of the suburb. Waterford is not the only suburb within the city of South Perth to feature an entry statement. Collier Gardens, for example, has 2 prominent entrances featuring illuminated signage. There were upgrades done to the entrance on Jackson Avenue recently, and then it had to be redone as the garden was damaged during works. There is also an entry statement, a small one but tasteful, in Salter Point, and it benefits from an attractive and welcoming gateway as well. These entry statements contribute positively to local identity and community pride. Having travelled extensively throughout Western Australia, from the northwest through to Esperance, I have seen many communities create attractive and welcoming public spaces despite facing challenges such as water restrictions. These places have successfully developed gateways and landscapes that make residents proud and visitors to the area feel welcome. By comparison, Waterford's entry currently stands out for all the wrong reason. It presents an image of neglect rather than one of pride, care and community identity. Modern residential developments routinely incorporate attractive entry statements because they recognise their value. Such features transform otherwise ordinary boundaries into welcome public spaces that showcase the unique qualities of the suburb. They often incorporate landscaping, public art, signage and design elements that provide visitors to the city of South Perth with a sense of what lies beyond. Waterford has many unique attributes worthy of celebration. It's not simply a residential suburb, it's a riverside community with significant natural assets, including breeding grounds for black swans and numerous species of ducks, pelicans soaring overhead, and an abundance of bird life and wildlife within its natural bushland reserves. Walking paths meander through these tranquil settings, providing residents and visitors to our area with opportunities to connect with nature. None of these qualities are reflected in the current entrance, which consists of, largely, wood chips, a tin fence, a sparse gum tree sapling, and the existing gateway does not convey the character, beauty or environmental significance of Waterford. The City of South Perth has the opportunity to join other modern forward-thinking communities by creating an entry statement that showcases not only the uniqueness of an individual suburb, but also the broader identity and the appeal of the city itself. I hope that I have demonstrated the opportunity before Council to create an engaging and welcoming entrance to Waterford that reflects our community pride, celebrates our local character and encourages people to discover all that the City of South Perth has to offer beyond its iconic foreshore. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your deputation, Ms Miles.
Okay.
Would you like to take questions from councillors on your deputation?
Of course.
Councillors, any questions for Ms Miles on her deputation this evening? No? That was
Okay,
easy.
thank you.
Thank you again. All right, that brings us to item 10, which is the draft June reports. I'll now turn you over to the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Ms Anita Amprimo, to take you through the balance of the draft June reports.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So item 10.1.1, Challenger Reserve Concept Design Master Plan Project, Alternative Concepts and Cost Estimates. This report provides the outcomes of the alternative concepts and cost estimates for the Challenger Reserve Concept Design Master Plan as required by the Council decision at its meeting held on 16 December 2025. Following analysis of the options, it's recommended that funding be allocated in the 2026-27 mid-year budget review for a detailed design of the new Challenger Reserve Pavilion to provide for the future demolition and redevelopment of the Challenger Pavilion only for the reasons outlined in the report.
Thank you, Ms Amprimo. Councillors, any questions for the administration on this? Councillor Russell.
Thank you. The officer recommendation point 2 notes new pavilion, whereas the officer's report recommended part option 3 is for a refurbished pavilion. What exactly is the city recommending in the motion itself?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, it is recommending a new pavilion, so we'll make sure we get that tidied up for the OCM.
Okay, thank you. What is attachment A on page 8? There's no such any sort of information in the attachments.
Ms Shaw or Ms Amprimo?
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. It was meant to be the alternative concepts that were to be provided, which are provided in the options report, but we'll just make sure that that's attached. We can send that between now and the next council meeting.
Thank you. Also, the report doesn't clearly provide the cost breakdown for the singular building, for the new pavilion. Is that possible to be reported?
Ms Shaw?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The cost estimate for that is approximately 4.1 million, and we can provide the detailed breakdown to council.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Brenda Abrandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just listening to the deputation this evening from Mr Dalton, with regard to the stage proposals that were indicated, could the administration just comment on whether something like that would be feasible, given that it's sort of over a 2-year period? I'm just mindful, if you undertake any development, if you did it in one tranche, it would actually always be more feasible, more economical.
Ms Shaw or Ms Amprimo? Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I suppose there are two parts to that. First was that council had previously considered a multi-purpose pavilion. So if council was looking to instead just progress with any upgrades or modifications to Manning Memorial Bowling Club, first we would need more details from the bowling club as to the concepts that were provided tonight and the likely staging. That would assist us in then being able to provide some high-level cost estimates for those works. Hearing some of the commentary in the deputation tonight, the figures that were presented were quite different to some of the cost estimates that we'd received as part of the components for the bowling club as part of this project. In terms of the staging and timing and things like that, again, we would need that information to see whether or not it would be feasible to deliver that.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillor Brenda Abrandis.
Thank you, Director Shaw. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just one more question. With regard to the canopies, I know that the city has had a look at those costs specifically before. Can you just give me an indication as to what the canopy cover across each green would be?
Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The cost estimates that we had were based on the design, the concept plan, but the cost estimate for covers over two synthetic greens. The design element alone without contingencies and professional fees for that was $3.5 million. And the costs for converting to synthetic greens, again, depends whether or not you'd be looking at moving the position of the green itself or whether you're converting just the existing greens.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillors, any further questions on this item for the administration tonight? No? Next item, please, Ms Amprimo.
Item 10.3.1, Scheme Amendment Number 5 to Local Planning Scheme Number 7, Schedule C, ACR2, South Perth Activity Centre Additional Centre Requirements. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider Scheme Amendment Number 5 to the Local Planning Scheme Number 7 to amend the wording of the element 8.2.4a under Schedule C, Additional Centre Requirements, ACR2, land subject to South Perth Activity Centre Plan.
Thank you, Ms Zampremo. Councillors, any questions on this item? No. Next item, please, Ms Zampremo.
Item 10.3.2, Local Planning Policy 5.2, Student Accommodation Facility in ASR8 revocation. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the revocation of Local Planning Policy 5.2, Student Accommodation Facility in ASR8.
Thank you, Ms Zampremo. Councillors, any questions? No. Next item, please, Ms Zampremo.
Item 10.3.3, Proposed Change of Use Single House to Unhosted Short-Term Rental Accommodation, Lot 1, Number 5, Eric Street, Como. The purpose of this report is to consider an application for development approval for a change of use from a single house to unhosted short-term rental accommodation on Lot 1, Number 5, Eric Street, Como. The item is referred to Council as the proposed land use falls outside the delegation to officers. It proposes a non-residential A uses within the residential zone, and an objection has been received during advertising. For the reasons outlined in the report, it is recommended that the application be conditionally approved.
Thank you, Ms Zampremo. Councillors, any questions on this item? No. Next item, please, Ms Zampremo.
Item 10.3.4, Proposed Change of Use, Multi-Dwelling and Unhosted Short Stay Term Rental Accommodation, Lot 6, number 106/29, Melville Parade, South Perth. The purpose of this report is to consider an application for development approval for a change of use from multiple dwellings to unhosted short-term rental accommodation on Lot 6, number 106/29, Melville Parade, South Perth. The item is referred to Council as the proposed land use falls outside of the officer's delegation. For the reasons outlined in the report, it is recommended that the application be conditionally approved.
Thank you, Ms Zampremo. Councillors, Councillor Russell.
Thank you. I note that one of the complaints is that there are already too many unhosted stras within the strata complex, which is a fair comment. What laws state policy prevents a complex becoming overwhelmed by unhosted stras and thereby a complex not for long-term residents?
Thank you for the question. Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the Chair. If I may just ask a clarification. Was the question in relation to what state policies are in existence?
Yes.
Thank you. There are no state policies per se. Any number of units within multiple dwelling may be registered for short stay, unhosted short stay accommodation, up to 90 days use, 90 nights use. There is no requirement to obtain development approval. So there could be any number of units within multiple dwelling occupied as such.
Thank you. Is it possible for the local policy to be amended to limit unhosted stras within a group or multiple dwelling complex, say to a percentage dwelling limitation? And what's the city's view on that being defendable within SAT?
Thank you for the question. Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the Chair. Quite a question. The policy could certainly be amended as such. Whether it's defendable as SAT that's not a question I would be able to answer.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions on this item, councillors? No? Next item, please, Ms Zampremo.
Item 10.3.5, Proposed Tree Damaging Activity to a Regulated Tree, Lot 17, Number 22, Pitt Street, Kensington. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider a development application for proposed tree damaging activity to a regulated tree at Lot 17, Number 22, Pitt Street, Kensington. For the reasons outlined in the report, it's recommended that the application be approved.
Thank you, Ms Zampremo. Councillors, Councillor Russell.
Thank you. I'm asking a series of questions in the context of a planning process. So I note within the Arborist report that Tree 10, which is a City of South Perth owned street tree, is within the proposed crossover, that is, it's city managed land. So the first question is, for the crossover, can the city explain how under law a development application for private lands can be extended onto public lands?
Ms Mullen.
Thank you through the chair. It's common practice for a crossover to extend across a verge, and in order to obtain the splays required that may encroach into the existing verge, each application is considered on its merits, and impact or otherwise on street trees is considered at that point.
Under planning law, is it actually specific in that can happen?
Ms Muller?
Through the chair, I think it would be difficult to access properties without the necessary required access points. There was sufficient width and required splays.
Okay, thank you. Does the delegation currently allow the city to authorise removal of this tree under this single dwelling DA, and if so, how?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you through the chair. No, it doesn't, and that's why this is before council. So the application for a single dwelling has in effect been separated. So we have the application to undertake the tree damaging activity to a regulated tree, and the single residential dwelling will be considered under delegation by officers.
Just to clarify, that's for the tree that's on the verge.
Thank you through the chair. My apologies. Yes, the street tree would be considered under delegation.
Okay, thank you. Policy P206 notes that trees on city managed land such as this tree, this street tree 10, cannot be removed. There is no discretion available in the policy. Is this policy applicable to the tree?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you through the chair. That would be applicable, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Any further questions, Councillor Russell? All right. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Brenda Abrandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just with regard to the deputation we heard tonight, it was articulated quite clearly that the tree is a healthy tree, so health is not a concern with regard to the tree, and also safety is not a concern with regard to the tree. Taking that into context, with regard to each request to remove a significant, substantial regulated tree, will this become a matter going forward, or is it something that we need to consider with regard to our policies? It's just that I am concerned that we do have local planning policy in place, and it does provide us with context, but these applications do keep coming through, obviously, for council consideration.
Just to clarify, Councillor Brenda Abrandis, are you asking about the delegations or the policies?
I'm actually just asking about our local planning policy, whether we need to actually consider anything further, given that the context of safety and also the health of the tree isn't in question, but is there something else we need to do to consider the protection of trees and private property?
Thank you for the clarification. Ms Mullen?
Thank you through the chair. I think the policy is sufficient in order to assess an application of this nature. Whilst the comment was made that the tree is healthy, I think as it says in the report, we have the applicant's arborist report, and then we have a peer review undertaken by the arborist appointed by the city. There is evidence of poor pruning and, if I pronounce this correctly, epicormic growth, which has been explained to me which results in a number of branches, which may cause failure in the future. So I think to say the tree is healthy is not strictly speaking correct. And there is also a rope embedded in the limbs, which suggests it's been there for some time. So I think there is a number of elements to take into account in an application of this nature. It's not just, we do take account the health of the tree, but we also take account of the location of the tree on the block. In this application, it can only be developed for a single residential unit. You have to consider the notional root zone to see whether it's actually feasible that you can still construct a dwelling and not impact the root zone of a tree. So when you have a tree that is not 100% healthy, and you also consider that root zone, I think there's a number of factors that you consider, and each application is considered on its individual merits. So certainly for the purposes of this application, the policy is sufficient to consider it.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Brenda Abrandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Ms Mullen. With regard to this particular block of land, it's a substantial block of land. It's just under 800 square metres. So taking that into context, with regard to the design of a potential dwelling on there, would it not be able to accommodate that tree? And the reason why I sort of ask this question is because I've seen a single dwelling, single story with no site views. which could have had a flip design but resulted in the loss of probably a 30-year-old wattle bus tree on a verge, which we didn't retain on Brandon Street. So I'm just asking the question whether enough consideration could be given to a sizable block of land at 800 square metres at tree retention.
Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the chair. When considering applications of this nature, it is considered whether a tree restricts the development potential of a block. In this instance, officers do consider that it does because it is within the centre of the site. The information, the proposed development has been provided for context only, so council is obviously not considering the development itself per se. But I think of a block of this size, it may be possible to design a dwelling that would retain the tree. However, as I mentioned previously, you do have to consider that NRZ, the root zone. And once you consider those sort of elements, you then actually result in a fairly restricted area to construct a dwelling. You have to consider the cost of designing such a dwelling and the owner's ability to develop on that particular site. So there's a number of factors to consider. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillors, any further questions for the administration on this item this evening? No? All right. Next item, please, Ms Ampremo.
Item 10.3.6, proposed illuminated and non-illuminated signage, Lot 1, number 1/2, Meadowvale Avenue, South Perth. The purpose of this report is to consider an application for development approval for illuminated signage on Lot 1, number 1/2, Meadowvale Avenue, South Perth. The item is referred to council as the applications for illuminated and/or digital content signage opposite, directly or diagonally to or adjoining a residential zone are outside of the delegation to officers. For the reasons outlined in the report, it is recommended that the application be approved subject to conditions.
Thank you, Ms Ampremo. Councillors, any questions on this item? No. Next item, please, Ms Ampremo.
Item 10.3.7, response to petition Waterford Estate entry statement, sorry. This report provides a response to the Waterford entry statement petition received at the 24th February 2026 Ordinary Council meeting and recommends the creation of a council policy on entry statements to ensure a coordinated approach to proposals for entry statements in future.
Thank you, Ms Ampremo. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Russell.
Thank you. The wall or the walls that are proposed to have these entry signs, do these walls come under the Dividing Fence Act?
Who should I send that to, folks? Ms Ampremo?
Yeah, so this is the first time I've seen this proposal, but under the Dividing Fences Act, the fences that adjoin public reserve are not shared dividing fences, if that makes sense. So the structure would need to be placed on the reserve independent of the fence on the private property.
So it couldn't fit onto the wall, it'd have to be a standalone sign, is that what we're saying?
Through you, Mr Mayor. So under the Dividing Fences Act, the fences that are adjoining public land are not a shared fence. So any structure we would put independent of that fence because that is not a shared boundary fence.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? I think Councillor Raison might have been first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question, has there been any consultation with the owners of the property that is adjoining that reserve about this proposal for the entry statement?
Ms Ampremo?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So as I said earlier, this is the first time I've seen this proposal, so I'm not aware of whether any discussion has or hasn't taken place.
Councillor Brenda Brandis?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With reflection on Mr D'Ambrosio's deputation this evening and the $60,000 that we've actually committed to but for the budget that was amended last week, would that be sufficient funding to achieve the concept design that was actually put before us this evening?
Ms Ampremo?
Without further detail, it's a bit difficult to tell, but I wouldn't think that it's likely that we could do what's proposed in that picture for $60,000, no. I don't even know that it's technically possible, because it looks like it indicates that it interferes with the traffic lanes in a way that probably wouldn't be acceptable from a road network management point of view.
Thank you.
Councillor Brenda Abrandis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Acting CEO. With regard to that location, could we not do anything with regard to greening the location? And I realise that irrigation and water presents a bit of an issue with regard to planting there, but is there anything that we could consider that could soften the entrance, make it greener, and have it a bit of a longer life with regard to greening?
Ms Anne Primer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the city has attempted to green this area in the past, I believe twice. The lack of water on site has proven challenging, and I believe a number of years ago there was cost estimates obtained to irrigate the area. The best opportunity that we can see at this point in time is to wait until the trees establish a little bit further and provide some shade to the area, and then see if we can get some low water plants to establish in the area.
Thank you, Ms Anne Primo. Councillors, any further questions on this item? No. Next item, please, Ms Anne Primo.
Item 10.3.8, Civil Construction, Urban Rivers and Catchment Programme Stage 1. This report recommends Council accept the proposal from M Civil Construction for the Civil Construction, Urban Rivers and Catchment Programme Stage 1.
Thank you, Ms Anne Primo. Councillors, any questions bearing in mind that there is a confidential attachment? No. Next item, please, Ms Anne Primo.
Item 10.4.1, Listing of Payments, May 2026. This report presents to Council the list of accounts paid under delegated authority between 1 May 2026 and 31 May 2026, purchase card transactions between 1 April 2026 to 30 April 2026.
Thank you, Ms Anne Primo. Councillors, any questions? No. Next item, please, Ms Anne Primo.
Item 10.4.2, Monthly Financial Statements, May 2026. This report presents to Council the financial statements for May 2026.
Thank you, Ms Anne Primo. Councillors, any questions on this item? No. Next item, please, Ms Anne Primo.
Item 10.4.3, Response to Notice of Motion, Financial Sustainability Strategy. This report presents the response to a notice of motion from Councillor Jacqueline Raison, titled Financial Sustainability Strategy. It outlines the city's current revenue base, identifies opportunities to diversify and optimise non-rate income, and confirms that long-term financial sustainability will continue to require a balanced approach to revenue, expenditure, asset renewal and service levels.
Thank you, Ms Anne Primo. Councillors, any questions? No. Next item, please, Ms Anne Primo.
Item 10.5.1, minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on 16 June 2026. This report recommends that Council receive the minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on 16 June 2026.
Thank you, Ms Anne Primo. Councillors, any questions? No. Next item, please, Ms Anne Primo.
Item 10.5.2, Annual Review of Council Delegations. Council has a statutory obligation under the Local Government Act 1995 to review its annual delegations each financial year.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? No. Before I ask Ms Anne Primo to introduce the next item, I know that I've declared a financial interest in 10.5.3. Councillors, do we have any questions for the administration? Because if we do, okay. In that case, I'll leave the room now temporarily. I'll invite the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Andre Brenda Abrandis, to take my seat. And if someone would be kind enough to come and get me after this questions on this item is concluded, that'd be great. See you all shortly.
Okay, thank you. We're at item 10.5.3, policy review. I understand there's a question, Councillor Russell.
Yes, thank you. If council resolved to revoke the mayoral vehicle policy, what is the immediate effect for the access to the car and what would happen to the car thereafter?
Acting CEO.
If you revoke the policy, then there is no policy at all. So council would need to give the administration some direction as to what they want to do with respect to the mayoral vehicle.
Okay, that's sufficient for me, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Your light is still on, Councillor Russell. Were there any further questions with regard to this item, policy review? No further questions, thank you. If someone could ask for the Mayor to return. Thank you.
I assume that takes us up to item 10.5.4. Ms Amprimo.
Item 10.5.4, Corporate Business Plan Minor Review. This report presents the draft Corporate Business Plan 2025-26 to 2028-29 for consideration by Council.
Thank you, Ms Amprimo. Councillors, any questions? No? That concludes item 10. That brings us to item 12, which is motions of which previous notice has been given. The first is item 12.1, which is a notice of motion entitled South Perth Senior Citizens Centre. Councillors, any questions on this item? No questions? Okay. We'll move on to item 12.2, which is a notice of motion entitled Community Consultation regarding potential collaboration and future amalgamation with the town of Victoria Park. Councillors, any questions? No. Okay. In that case, that moves us on to item 15, which is where we would ordinarily close the meeting to the public if there was any reason for us to do so, but there's not, so we won't. And that brings us to item 16, which is closure. So before I close tonight's meeting, I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance and participation this evening. I declare the meeting closed at 7:26 p.m. Thank you all, and good night.